What's going on, everybody? It's Nick Kosko with On3. I have a very special guest today. It's the Super Bowl champion, Mark Schlereth, here to help me preview the NFC and AFC Championship games and also talk about the coaching news in the NFL. So, Mark, appreciate the time. As always, good to talk to you again. First, let's tell the folks at home why you are here today ahead of game day this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Game day starts with a great TV, LG OLED Evo C3. Immerse yourself in this extraordinary visual and auditory experience. Whether it's movies, gaming, or sports, you'll feel like you're part of the action with LG OLED TVs from 42 inches to 83 inches. LG OLED TVs are simply the best. LG.com for more information. And then when it's a party, you got to have great food. Sometimes the food's better than the game. Everyone loves a great snack board. My friends at Farm Rich make it easy. Mozzarella sticks, loaded potato skins, crispy dill pickles, breaded veggies, the whole 9 yards in the freezer section of your local grocer, farmrich.com for more information. Then you can spice up your party with ramen from our friends at Nissan Foods. Heat up game day with the all-new hot and spicy Firewalk packets with chili pepper-infused noodles, torch teriyaki chicken, screaming Szechuan beef. It's so easy. You can prep and serve in 5 minutes at your party. Available at Walmart, walmart.com for more information. Now let's talk a little football.
Absolutely, Mark. So I know the games are coming up this week, but as we talk right here, a lot of the news right now, the big news is on the coaching front, and the big one was Jim Harbaugh going to the LA Chargers. He was hired basically overnight at this point. He's been in discussions for quite a bit, but he finally leaves Michigan, returns to the NFL. Just your first reaction to seeing Harbaugh come back to the pros after winning a national championship, and it seems like the Chargers might be the best situation for him as he comes back to the NFL.
Yeah, Harbaugh has done remarkable work with every quarterback that he's ever had. And I remember when he came in to the National Football League, he left Stanford, he was coaching Andrew Luck there, left Stanford, came to San Francisco. And I was doing an event, and it was Jim and John Harbaugh. And I asked him about Alex Smith because at that time he's the first overall pick, but he was really considered a bust. And Jim was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this guy. You know what? He's never had anybody believe in him, and I believe in him." And all of a sudden, he went from being a bust to being a great quarterback for San Francisco. And then he went to Kaepernick, and then went to a Super Bowl with him. And so he's been great with quarterbacks, and I know he loves Justin Herbert. Who doesn't love Justin Herbert? So they've got a ready-made quarterback to be an instant competitor there in Charger land. So I think it's a great hire. There's no question about it. And Jim has done a great job with quarterbacks wherever he's been, both in the college game and in the professional game.
Could be a lot of instant success right there in 2024. Another big name, of course, arguably the GOAT of all head coaches, Bill Belichick, still without a job. He's interviewed with Atlanta twice, Mark, but for some reason, he has not been hired yet. I know the Falcons have probably interviewed pretty much everybody under the sun at this point. Why do you think Bill Belichick is not the Falcons head coach, or why he's not really receiving interest from maybe some of the other openings? Now they're down to 4 openings in the NFL. What's the holdup, you think, with Bill Belichick?
Well, I think most owners want a young offensive guy that has had great success with quarterbacks. So that's Ben Johnson out of Detroit. Obviously, Bobby Sloak is another guy out of Houston. They want those young offensive coaches. They want somebody they feel like can develop a quarterback. So I think that's, really what you're looking at. And when you look at Atlanta, man, they are ready made. That is a really good roster. The issue is a young quarterback who has struggled, who's been inconsistent in Desmond Ridder. So I wonder if they really want to go after that young kind of, offensive kind of guru or genius type of guy. And the fact that they keep holding off and they keep interviewing guys and holding off and interviewing guys makes me feel like they're kind of waiting for Ben Johnson to be available and go in that direction. But, again, your guess is as good as mine, but I would assume that it has to do a lot with most people want to focus on the offensive side of the ball in the National Football League.
Seems to be the way of the world these days. Speaking of offense and good offense, the Buffalo Bills had that, but of course fell short once again to the Kansas City Chiefs. Wide right, part 2, essentially. Mark, do you think the Bills are cursed at this point? It just seems like they cannot get over this hump. We've seen it time and time again with Josh Allen. Maybe he's not the exact problem. Maybe it's the defense. Maybe the Bills needed more of a defensive guy, more so than Sean McDermott. What do you think the glaring issue is with the Buffalo Bills, and they cannot get over that Kansas City Chief hump?
Well, I was a part of the Denver Broncos when Mike Shanahan came to Denver and said, "Hey," to John Elway, like, if we're going to win a championship, it's got to be more about the team than it is about the quarterback. I want to take some pressure off you. I don't want you to have to play on the high dive the entirety of the games. And, that's to me, I mean, you're not going to out Mahomes. I don't care what your name is. You're just not going to do that. So I feel oftentimes that they just put Josh Allen, on the high dive and say, go win us football games, Josh. You're the man. Go do it. And I think they need a more complete offense. And I think they need to take some of that pressure and some of the onus off their quarterback and be more of a team-oriented football team. When you watch them play, they'll do it for a quarter. They'll do it for 2 or 3 quarters. But in crunch time, they just say, hey, go win us this game. And it's almost like, they put him out there. And I just, he is great. He is a great player. But I just think philosophically, they need to kind of look at themselves a little bit more critically and take him out of those positions. And I think that's the biggest problem in Buffalo.
So when we look ahead to the teams that actually won now, let's get to the football on Sunday. So the team that beat them, the Kansas City Chiefs, hit the road for the AFC title game against the Baltimore Ravens. This could be the year where Baltimore finally says, we're going to go a little bit deeper with Lamar Jackson. But at least in my mind, Mark, it's Patrick Mahomes. You can never count him out. What's your biggest takeaway, or what's your biggest what are you looking at here between the Chiefs and the Ravens and how that game might end up here on the field Sunday?
Well, if you can make the Ravens have to be a drop back passing team, I think that gives you a legitimate opportunity to win this football game. How do you do that? Well, you got to shut down their run which is hard with their quarterback design stuff, the RPO stuff, and then the zone read stuff where Lamar can choose to hand it off or take off outside. It's so hard to defend. The play action stuff that comes off of that is so difficult to defend as well. But if you can make them a drop back team, that's not their forte. And you can win a football game by doing that. Disrupt routes, kind of almost mush rush, and don't let Lamar escape. You've got an opportunity. I think on the flip side of that, I think the Baltimore Ravens, so physical. They run the ball exceptionally well, so physical on the defensive side of the ball and attacking protections. They get so many free runners, and they feel like when you play against them, it feels like you're under attack, like you're under blitz the whole time. But they play a ton of zone defense, and they have a ton of simulated pressures. So it looks like they're bringing 6, but they're really bringing 4. But they're getting free runners at your quarterback. So protection becomes paramount, and how you call protections, because they basically have 2 different places they can bring pressure from. And when they see you call a protection and they know where you're going, they bring it from where you're unprotected. So doing a better job of calling things and living with things in the huddle, I think, is a way to counter some of the defensive pressures they bring.
Mark Schlereth with me here on On3 Sports. Mark, I'll combine these last 2 into one right here before I let you go. Just looking ahead at the 49ers and Lions game, where you see that one going. And obviously, it seems like you're leaning one way or the other with both these games. And ultimately, what would be your Super Bowl pick at this point after Sunday?
Yeah, I'll take San Francisco. I think this is a great game, but I think one of the things that's going to hurt Detroit is San Francisco played poorly against Green Bay, and they were lucky to get out of their home stadium with a victory. I thought it was probably the worst performance I had seen from their defense, and I called the last 2 games of the season and dug deep into their film. So 6-7 games that I studied. So I thought it was probably their worst performance. I think they'll bounce back. They did not run the ball as effectively as they'd like to. They only had 1 possession in the first quarter, which tends to get you out of your game plan. I thought that happened to them. I think they'll rectify those things. I think they're a better football team, and I think they'll give that defense of Detroit a little bit of a tough matchup, because there's one guy that you have to contend with, really, and that's Aiden Hutchinson. If you take care of him, I think you've got a great chance to really run the ball and set up your play action stuff. So I'll take San Francisco and Baltimore in the Super Bowl.
That's going to be a good one. You get a first-time winner, maybe in Detroit, or maybe Baltimore gets back to the top of the heap as well. Mark, appreciate the time as always, my man. Appreciate to talk to you once again. Enjoy the games this weekend. Of course, we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Mark Schlereth with me right here on On3 Sports.